So hi, today we'll discuss iOS. We'll discuss. So first in this session, I'll explain you. So what is the definition of iOS? Okay. So how to set up the environment? What are the programming languages we use for developing these iPhone applications? Okay. So the actual name of iOS is nothing but iPhone OS. The original name of iOS is nothing but what? iPhone OS. Okay. So iOS is a mobile operating system. iOS is what? It's a mobile operating system. So designed and developed by Apple. Designed and developed by Apple. Okay. So for its devices, meaning for Apple devices, this mobile operating system is designed and developed by Apple for its devices like for example for iPhone. Okay. So iPhone, iPad. Okay. So iPod, and now recently uh, that Apple watches. Okay, like different products are there. Mainly this operating system is developed for Apple devices. Okay, so basically this iOS is derived from OS X. Okay, so OS X is nothing but it's a operating system. OS X is a operating system for Mac. Okay, so basically this iOS is also derived from the Mac OS. Okay, the present latest version of iOS is nothing but okay. So 10.3 is the latest version of iOS. So latest version of iOS is what? 10.3 is what? Latest version of iOS. And for developing this iOS, we need a tool called Xcode is a tool. The latest version of Xcode is for developing iPhone applications. We need a tool called what? We need a tool called Xcode. Okay, so explicitly we cannot download that iOS SDK. We cannot download that one. So by default with the Xcode itself we'll get that iOS SDK will get by default. Okay, so for developing iOS application we need a tool called what? Xcode is a tool. The latest version of Xcode is 8.0 is the latest version of Xcode. The present latest version of Xcode is what? 8.0 is the latest version of Xcode. Okay, explicitly you need to download the SDK for iOS. So once if you download this Xcode, so automatically we'll get the iOS also will get. Okay, based on the Xcode version, whatever you downloaded, automatically will get the iOS SDK also will get. Okay, next. So basically in Mac, okay, you'll get a question like, is it MacBook is mandatory for developing these iPhone applications? Okay, Mac operating system is mandatory for developing these iPhone applications. Yes, basically Mac operating system is mandatory for developing this iPhone applications because this Xcode tool you cannot install in other platforms. You cannot install. Only you can install in Mac operating system only you can install this one. Okay, so Mac operating system is mandatory. So even though if you are using Windows or some other platforms, you can use a VMware. You can use on top of VMware. So you can install this Mac operating system. You can install. Okay, and same like our exe file, same like .exe, in Windows. Okay, same like .exe in Windows. So in Mac, okay, so the setup file is nothing but .dmg file. Okay, so .dmg is a setup file. .dmg is a setup file in Mac. Okay, so download this Xcode dmg file and automatically you'll get the iOS SDK also you'll get. Okay, so next, basically what iOS will do. So this iOS is nothing but iOS is an abstraction iOS is an abstraction between applications in your iPhone applications and device hardware. We already knows that what is the responsibility of operating system. I hope you know what exactly operating system. Basically, operating system provides an interface or abstraction between the applications and the hardware components. Here also same thing. iOS is also doing the same thing here. Okay, iOS is an abstraction between the applications and it's a device hardware. Okay, iOS is nothing but what? It's a abstraction between the applications and its device hardware. Okay, so if you can categorize this iPhone, we can categorize. So you can categorize this iOS as 4 layers. You can categorize this iOS as what? 4 categories we can categorize. One is Cocoa Touch layer is one thing. One is Cocoa Touch layer. Next, Cocoa Touch layer, Cocoa Touch layer, media layer, core services, and core OS. Okay, so we can categorize this iPhone operating system. We can categorize as 4 layers. We can categorize. So Cocoa Touch layer, media layer, core services, and core operating system. Just diagrammatically we will represent. Okay, so you are developing an application. You are developing what? An application for iPhone. You are developing an application. You are developing an application for iPhone. Okay, so you are developing an application for iPhone. You are developing an application. So operating system is an abstraction. This iOS is an abstraction between okay, this is what it is. It is iOS. Okay, so iOS operating system. This iOS operating system provides an abstraction between iPhone applications and the device hardware. It's an abstraction between these two components. Okay, so this iOS operating system we can categorize as 4 layers. We can categorize. We already listed that 4 categories. Okay, so let me list out that 4 categories. One is what? So one is Cocoa Touch layer. Next, Cocoa Touch layer, media layer, core services, and core OS. Okay, so these are the 4 layers in the iPhone operating system. So these are the 4 layers in the iPhone operating system, and this iOS is nothing but it's an abstraction or a middle layer between your iPhone applications and the device hardware. Okay, so now we'll discuss what is each layer contains. What is the purpose of these layers? Okay, so first thing is what? Cocoa Touch layer. First thing is what? Cocoa Touch layer. So mainly the purpose of this layer is, so this layer contains some key frameworks. This layer contains what? This layer contains key frameworks for this layer contains what? Key frameworks for developing iOS apps. So it contains some key frameworks. So mainly these frameworks will deal with the user interface part, meaning how your application wants to show to the user with some different UI components. So mainly for designing purpose, we use these frameworks we use. So these frameworks provide what? So these frameworks provides UI related concepts to provide to your application. So these frameworks provides what? UI related concepts to your application. So next, apart from UI related things, so not only UI related things, so these frameworks so provide some key concepts like multi-threading. So these framework provides what? Some key concepts like, meaning apart from not only UI related things, it provides some key concepts in application development like multi-threading and touch based input and push notifications. So push notifications and touch events. So if you want to work with these things, we use this Cocoa touch layer we use. And second thing is media layer. By seeing the name itself, we can easily imagine what this layer provides. So this layer provides what? So this layer provides or contains graphics, and audio and video related concepts. So if you want to display a graphics or audio or video if you want to play to the in the application, so we use this media layer, not media player, media layer. So we use these media layer concepts we use. The second thing and the third thing is what? Core services. So mainly it contains system services. It contains what? System services. So mainly these services which is used to deal with some low level APIs, like for example location. So if you want to mainly network calls, if you want to work with network calls, if you want to work, so we'll write the logic in this core services will write. So mainly this layer contains what? It contains low level services or some system services like location. So how can you get your current location? And so we are having iCloud, so Apple service, iCloud Apple service. And if you want to work with any social media concepts, and networking. So mainly network related concepts and network related concepts. So this layer will take core services layer. And the last thing is nothing but core OS layer. So it contains some low level features. This core OS contains what? Some low level features which is used to interact with the hardware directly. So mean these low level APIs will communicate with what? Device hardware directly. Contains low level features Okay, so which is used to communicate with device hardware directly. Okay, so mainly these things are the native libraries. I mean, which are written in some other languages like C, C++, like. Okay, so which is used to device hardware what directly. For example, we are having a sensor called accessory sensor is one thing. Accessory sensor is one sensor. Okay, so or if you want to work with Bluetooth, if you want to work, or if you want to work with Wi-Fi, if you want to work with Wi-Fi. Okay, so Bluetooth, or if you want to work with, basically if you want to work with hardware, if you want to work with any hardware, if you want to work directly, then this core OS layer is used. Okay, so these are the four layers. Okay, in iPhone operating system. Cocoa touch layer mainly deals with what the UI part, how to design the screen user interface. Apart from that, so few concepts like threading concept. Okay, so notification concept, this Cocoa touch layer will take care. And media, if you want to display graphics, audio, video first, we use this. Media layer concepts are used. And core services layer, it contains some services like which is used to make a network calls. Then we'll take this core services layer, we'll take. Okay, and core OS means it's a low level features. I mean low level API which is used to communicate the device hardware directly, like sensors, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. If you want to work with these things, if you want to work, so then we'll take this core OS layer, we'll take. Okay, and the next concept is, okay, we discussed what exactly iOS we discussed. It's a mobile operating system for Apple devices. Okay, and the latest version is what, 10.10 10.3 is the latest version, and it is derived from what, from OS X. Okay, so now we'll see what are the environments we required. We already discussed environment also. We already discussed what is the environment we required. We required iOS SDK. We required iOS SDK. We required, but if you want to get this iOS SDK, if you want to get explicitly, we cannot get that one. By using Xcode only, we can get that iOS SDK. We can get. Okay, so meaning Xcode itself contains that iOS SDK. Okay, explicitly you cannot download that one. So basically we need these two things. We need iOS SDK and Xcode. But Xcode, once if we install Xcode, automatically you'll get iOS SDK also, you'll get automatically. But if you want to install this Xcode, if you want to install, what we required? We required Mac we required Mac operating system we required. Okay, this is the environment. Okay, so next, what are the programming language we use? What are the programming languages we use for developing the iPhone applications? What are the programming languages we use for developing this iOS applications we'll discuss. Okay, so mainly here right now in the present market, we can develop the iPhone applications by using two programming languages we can develop. One is by using Objective-C, you can develop the applications, and second thing is by using a Swift, we can develop the applications. One is what, by using Objective-C, and one more thing is what, Swift. Okay, so there are two programming languages you can use for developing the iPhone applications. One is what, Objective-C is one thing, and one more thing is what, Swift. Okay, so these are the two programming languages now for developing the iPhone applications. Okay, so now the demand is there for Swift because with respect to memory management and complexity of the code, with respect to memory management and the speed of execution and all, Swift is more better than the Objective-C. Okay, even with respect to coding also, it's very simple to write the code in Swift compared to Objective-C. Okay, and so this is the latest one, and it's more faster than in the execution, memory management and all. Okay, so that's why now the people are preferred to go for this Swift programming language. But even though if you are writing the code using Swift, internally this iOS SDK frameworks are developed by using Objective-C. So even though you are using the Swift code, so sometimes we'll take a support of this framework support. We'll take those frameworks are already built in Objective-C. Okay, it's better if you have a both. I mean Objective-C and Swift. Okay, it's better if you have a knowledge on what, both Objective-C and Swift. Okay, because we are writing the code in Swift, but we are using some frameworks we are going to use in our application. Those frameworks are built on Objective C. Okay, so first we'll discuss Objective C. We'll discuss. Then after that we'll discuss Swift. We'll discuss. Okay, so first let's start our discussion with what Objective C. I'm not comparing the differences. Okay, so once if we discuss this Objective C and Swift, at that time we'll discuss what are the differences between Objective C and Swift. Okay, so one major difference I'll tell you now, that is Objective C is a superset of C programming language, meaning you'll get the same syntax, C syntax you'll get. Objective C is a superset of C programming language. The syntax and everything you'll get in a C programming language format you'll get. But in case of Swift, Swift is not a superset of any other programming language. It's completely different. It's completely a new programming language. It is completely. Okay. So now first we'll discuss Objective C. We'll discuss. Okay.